Hello, welcome to this podcast. This is going to be your go-to episode if you're new to the space. I'm also using this as an introduction to the podcast for the launch of it, which is very exciting. So I wanted to start by sharing about myself if you have never met me before, or maybe you just don't know some of my story, where I'm from. So I'm from Vermont originally in the US, and I split my time with visiting family in Peru. So my roots go through mostly New England and Vermont, and on the other side of my family in the Andes Mountains of Cusco, Peru. So a lot of that background of being in Vermont and Peru laid a foundation in myself of connecting with and learning about nature and energy. My dad was really adamant about sharing with us about our ancestry with the Incas and how they connected with land and understood the balance of things. And he spoke a lot about energy and what that meant when it has to do with the natural worlds, the mountains, the stones. And in Vermont, we really connected a lot with nature as well, just being in this landscape. My grandparents lived in the countryside, where my mom grew up in the countryside. So nature has been a big part of my life without me even realizing it for a long time. And then I moved to New York City and started a new life there after graduating from college. But then eventually found myself diving into wellness and personal development and exploring options of entrepreneurship, because I knew from early on I didn't want to do like a corporate life. I didn't feel passionate about that. I didn't like the whole 9 to 5, 2 weeks off. It just did not vibe with me at all right away. And I always had this desire to have my own business. But it's funny how these desires and these visions kind of get interrupted by these limiting thoughts. Like, they were a different story over time, but slowly I've peeled back layers of that story, and now I'm continuing forward on this journey of entrepreneurship, creating a business, and also a place to share what's on my heart and express myself creatively, because that's like the essence of what I feel called to do in everything. So going back to what started personal development and wellness in my own life was, well, I started learning about therapy and navigating anxiety and different things that I wasn't consciously aware that I was experiencing. I started that in college, and that just like every layer led to another one. So it wasn't until it was 2020 when, everyone's life was shifting and changing, that I had time to slow down and realize that I had this natural connection with mindfulness and was really good at creating meditations without, putting much effort into it. And I dove even more into wellness and meditation. And I wasn't really involved in that beforehand. I had tried some yoga before, I had these fitness goals, but didn't really do much about it. So it was the beginning of 2020 when I really got into all of that and starting a business, one that could support my dream vision of what I wanted for my life. That all started in 2020, and it also ignited this spiritual reawakening in myself, where I was more aware of my own connection with the spirit realm and connecting with my higher self, and learning more about healing through spiritual tools. And then I started to learn about plant medicine, and I just went into this whole rabbit hole of reawakening parts of myself that were always there, but just needed just needed to be reawoken and seen by me. So the past few years has been a lot of learning and peeling back layers of conditioning to continue forward and continue trying again. And over this past 4 years plus, beyond that, I think a lot of the knowledge I have goes ancestrally back, and we all have connection with our own soul and ancestral lineage that you will learn more about through this podcast. So we all can connect with something beyond this life that we have wisdom for. And so I lost my train of thought. But, so the past few years I have been really listening and learning a lot. And that has come up to this point here where I'm now sharing it in a podcast. And really excited because actually what inspired this podcast was something that I'm calling the Bliss Project. So it's this, I call it the project because it's not something that I can do all the time. It's like something I keep coming back to. I have a lot of visions for what this will become and a lot of things that I want to share through this topic of bliss and the word bliss. And that originally started when I first launched a coaching business in 2020, and I created what I called the Bliss Out Challenge. And so this past year, this memory of that came to me and was like, I felt really called to revisit that. And there's something really special about those beginnings, like the original things that I was doing back then are actually very true to what I want to do now. So I'm not much different in what I'm sharing, but it's just I'm more confident in myself and have a bit more experience in how to balance the creation process with my needs and with co-creating it all with a higher universal source of energy and my higher self. So that's where all of this comes from, is like this Bliss Out Challenge, this coaching program that I started when I wanted to start my entrepreneurship journey in like more of a digital realm. And so here we are. And okay, I have a couple notes. Let's see what else I wanted to share about. So let's go into, that's about me, about what led me up to this point. And beyond the Bliss Out Project, that is just like one of the many things that I am focused on creating and developing. Outside of that, I also have a creative studio. So I offer bespoke art pieces that are for intentional spaces. So like a home, a studio, a business place, wherever that might be. And then also offer creative consultation. And I share on a blog. So I share on a lot of different platforms and have been doing that over the past few years. So feel free to check it out. I have the website listed in the notes below about, all the other things that I offer and have and am creating. So then I also want to share about how this podcast what you can expect with it. So because I've learned about myself, and my process is very much, I have to honor my natural rhythms and I have to honor my seasons. So every month I go through a season of a winter, a spring, a summer, a fall, and every year we do that as well. And that's some of the things I'm going to be sharing about in this podcast, is how to learn about yourself and your creative, your strengths and your, you could call them weaknesses, but they're just who you are. So we're not all perfect at everything. We can't be that version of that person because that's not us. We have to really hone in on what is true for ourselves in order to learn how to create and manifest in a way that feels right and feels aligned, that feels good, and trusting the process of that. So how this podcast will flow is that I have some pre-recorded episodes that I've already will be sharing. And then as time goes on, I'm going to continue to share. My intention is at least one podcast episode a month, maybe more. But there's like times when I'm feeling really inspired and I'll just roll with it, and times that I might need to, be in my cocoon, focus on something else or something of that sort. Because basically what I'm sharing is all based on my own discoveries and also based on my own ability to maintain a commitment to what I call the bliss timeline, which it does take effort, and it's not always easy. Sometimes I just want to be lazy about it, but I'm learning a lot about how to balance my energy levels with commitment to things and consistency. So basically, there's no specific rhythm to this podcast of when things will come out. And everything I share does require me to have time with myself and time reflecting and connecting with nature. A lot of what I share is based on my own experience and challenges that I'm going through, that then I turn into nuggets of wisdom and aha moments. And a lot of these things I share is somewhat channeled because I receive information about insights into something I'm experiencing through a higher place. So that could be, considered your intuition. We're also always connected to like a larger universal, we're like connected to each other. What do they call it? The like collective consciousness. So some of the things I'll be sharing are, actually most of them are basically, have already been known for a long time. I could consider it ancient wisdom, but it's just like foundational concepts that I think everyone kind of talks about and knows. But the thing is, you have to, like, there's so much more depth to it it's a simple thing, but there's depth to it. And that's what I'll continue to share, is like deeper understandings, more embodiment in my own life and what I'm learning from that. And you might be experiencing the same thing. Like maybe you're learning about something like connecting with your breath, but then you go on and do something else in your life and focus on something else and you forget about it. And you're struggling in maintaining balance in your life. But then you come back to this core concept of connecting with your breath and what that offers you. So these are like tools and lessons and insights that we can oftentimes forget about, and we always need to practice them. It's like a daily reminder. It's a daily practice of coming back to these concepts. And we know how to take care of ourselves. We already know how to create a life, a reality that's totally different from the one that we're seeing, but the one that we know and we see in ourselves, in our heart, in our like third eye vision. And we already know, like, everything you need to know. Sometimes it helps to hear it from someone else to really click it in and to reaffirm something you already know. So that's something else I wanted to share, is that this is me sharing, but also you have all the information. You are your own guide, and it's important that you take what resonates because that's what's for you. And like the way I experience the world is completely different from other people. So what I share might not work for you. Like maybe I share a lesson about slowing down, but maybe slowing down is a totally different challenge for you, and you have to find a new way to like what that looks like for you. So really take things into consideration through the lens of your own inner guidance. It's something I wanted to share. The other thing I wanted to share is that I intend to travel more throughout the years and continue this podcast over that period of time. I love to travel and learn about life through the land that I'm on. So I'll probably be just sharing a lot about my personal life and experiences with that. And most of these episodes will likely be just audio. So this is the one video recording we're going to be doing, and we'll see if that changes. I'm open to feedback about how this podcast is formatted, because I could talk for a long time and just share like that. But if you also want to incorporate, snippet type podcasts that are more straight to the point, let me know. And my contact information is in the show notes, so you can email me anything if you have any questions or comments. And lastly, if you would like to join me in this Bliss project, a great place to start is by following this podcast. Then also I've included an email list, so that's where we can stay connected throughout the project as it evolves and expands, and I create more offerings. And then also there's a bunch of platforms where I share at different times on each platform. So you can follow me on Instagram and YouTube, and check out my website as well, where you'll see blog posts. But the email list is the main place to be. So share your email and we'll stay connected. You'll learn, there will be some offerings about committing to this Bliss project for yourself and what that could look like. And thank you so much for listening to the first episode. I hope that this was a great layout for you and foundation of like what to expect and who I am. And yeah, so the first episode after this is about breath, which I'm really excited about, because it's just literally foundational to everything. So it helps me a lot, and I hope you enjoy it as well.